It was supposed to be a routine oversight hearing. Instead, it turned into one of the most explosive clashes of the year. Accusations of incompetence, claims of political theater, and a fiery exchange that exposed the deep divide over the future of the FBI. In a moment that instantly went viral, Representative Jasmine Crockett unloaded on FBI Director Kash Patel, questioning his qualifications, his leadership, and whether Americans, particularly Black Americans, can feel safe under his watch. What followed was a political showdown that had the entire room on edge. And by the end of it, the hearing had transformed from policy discussion into political battlefield. What began as a standard congressional oversight session quickly escalated into a confrontation that underscored the widening rift between Democrats and Republicans over law enforcement, extremism, and the direction of federal agencies under President Donald Trump's renewed leadership. Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas opened her remarks by grounding her argument in what she called simple facts. She reminded the committee that Director Christopher Wray, previously appointed by Donald Trump, had led the FBI before Kash Patel's appointment. But her focus quickly shifted to Patel himself. Crockett accused Patel of being the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, pointing out that he had never previously served within the Bureau before assuming its top leadership role. She challenged the narrative that Patel represented a historic improvement, suggesting instead that his appointment reflected political loyalty over institutional experience. Her tone was direct, at times confrontational. "I didn't ask you a question," she stated firmly at one point, signaling that her remarks were not an inquiry but an indictment. Crockett then pivoted to what she described as failures under Patel's leadership. She referenced allegations that career officials were targeted prior to his confirmation and criticized the handling of investigations tied to former President Trump. But the most emotional portion of her remarks centered on domestic extremism. Crockett cited examples of Republican lawmakers who had received death threats after voting against Congressman Jim Jordan for House Speaker. She noted that one member reportedly left Congress after threats escalated to the point that his wife slept with a firearm for protection. Her broader argument, political violence is rising, and the majority of threats, she asserted, stem from right-wing extremism. "As a Black woman," Crockett said, "I definitely don't feel safe." She questioned whether the FBI under Patel was adequately confronting white supremacist violence, referencing attacks on historically Black colleges and universities, and violence in houses of worship. The room grew tense. She also criticized Patel's comments from the previous day, when he reportedly stated it could take up to 14 years to fully staff the FBI. She argued that redirecting agents toward immigration enforcement duties weakened the Bureau's ability to handle domestic terrorism and violent crime. And then came a sharp accusation that the FBI appeared more focused on political optics than operational effectiveness. "I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing except trying to put on a show," she said. When her time expired, the chairman offered Director Patel the opportunity to respond. Before Patel spoke, a Republican member from South Carolina dismissed Crockett's remarks as auditions and theatrics, suggesting they were designed for cable news appearances. Then Patel addressed the criticism directly. "I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission," he stated. His defense was rooted in statistics and outcomes. Patel cited what he described as record-breaking achievements, capturing more child predators, seizing more drugs, apprehending murderers at historic rates, and delivering what he called the lowest murder rate in recorded history. "These are facts you cannot dispute," Patel said. "You can come at me all you want, I don't care." Republican members praised his leadership, arguing that under President Trump's authority and resources, the FBI had been empowered to act more aggressively and effectively than ever before. Democrats, however, remained skeptical. The core dispute in the hearing wasn't simply about numbers, it was about priorities. Democrats argue that domestic extremism, particularly white supremacist violence, represents the most urgent threat facing the nation. They question whether the Bureau's current leadership is willing to confront that threat with clarity and transparency. Republicans counter that crime reduction, border enforcement, and aggressive prosecution of violent offenders are yielding measurable results, and that critics are politicizing law enforcement. The exchange also highlighted a deeper philosophical divide. Should the FBI operate primarily as a counterterrorism and civil rights enforcement agency focused on ideological violence, or should it prioritize traditional crime metrics like murder rates, drug seizures, and child exploitation cases? Both sides claim the moral high ground. Crockett's remarks resonated strongly with those concerned about rising extremist rhetoric and targeted violence. Her supporters argue that oversight hearings are precisely the venue for forceful accountability. Meanwhile, Patel's defenders view his blunt response as a sign of confidence, a refusal to be distracted by political attacks while focusing on operational outcomes. The broader political context cannot be ignored. Trust in federal institutions has become deeply polarized. Public confidence in the FBI has fluctuated dramatically over the past decade, shaped by investigations into presidential campaigns, January 6 prosecutions, classified documents cases, and ongoing national security threats. This hearing reflected not just disagreement over policy, but over legitimacy itself. Is the Bureau being weaponized, or is it finally being re-empowered? Is leadership inexperienced or unconventional and effective? Those questions remain unresolved. What is clear is that the exchange will likely fuel further political debate in the months ahead, especially as crime statistics, domestic extremism concerns, and immigration enforcement remain central issues in national discourse. For now, the viral moment stands as a symbol of America's political climate: heated, personal, and sharply divided. One side says the FBI has never been more effective, the other side says it has never been more misdirected. And as both sides continue to present competing narratives, the American public is left to decide which version of leadership and which definition of safety they believe.